And I sincerely hope that she's also here and ready to go on stage. Det är alltså ett samtal med den arabiska författaren, journalisten och tv-värden Jomana Haddad som, ja, där är hon, i samtal med Charlotta Sparre som är diplomat. Och ni har den äran att ta över scenen. Varsågoda.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I am really happy to introduce you to Jomana Haddad, who is a leading poet, author, journalist, and political activist. You have been starting Jasad, a quarterly Arab magazine on art and literature and the body. You have been standing for election in a parliament, and you have written very prolifically. So I'm really happy to have you here. And I think a lot of people would call you courageous, but others would call you a provocateur. There is clearly a lot of power that comes from your writing. So what is it that drives you?
First of all, allow me to say how happy and honored I am to be here, and especially to do this conversation with you, Charlotta. Carlotta or Charlotta? How do you say that? Charlotta. You said that some people say that I'm courageous, others say that I'm a provocateur. Actually, courage provokes. Courage provokes those who don't have any courage. So if you're courageous, you're definitely intrinsically considered like a provocateur. I get my drive, I always say that, from two main feelings. One is anger. Anger in the sense of outrage about all the injustice that I see around me, whether it's affecting me or it's affecting other people. Injustice such as inequality, sexism, racism, discrimination, homophobia, sectarianism, so many forms of injustice in my country and in my part of the world. And my other drive is love. So they complete each other. Some people think that they contradict each other. Not at all. They complete each other because you need anger to push you to do something about what you're witnessing. And you need love in order to embrace those who are suffering and help them and transform this, whatever you're doing, into an act of social justice. So you need both.
Well, it certainly becomes extremely powerful when you have both. But maybe you can also tell us a little bit of how this is affecting your writing and how it comes through in your books and in your poetry.
Yeah, well, I had quite a transformative or multi-stage career. I started as a poet at 11 years of age, 11, 12. I started writing because I used to read a lot as a child. The books that I read allowed me to have the life that was not available to me in Beirut in the 1970s and 80s because of a very vicious civil war that was happening in my country. So I escaped to books in order to learn how to dream and breathe and believe that there's something better out there waiting for me. And then at 11, 12, I started writing poetry, and I moved on, not in the sense of progress, but because I believe that all genres are as important one as the other. I moved on to work as a cultural journalist, so I wrote, and I still do, write a lot of articles and essays. I published nonfiction, I published theater, I published children's books, And now I've just published my first novel. That's my 15th book, and I'm very excited about it. But to tell you the truth, some people tell me, how do you combine being an author and being a political activist? Because they think that they somehow stand on opposite sides. I think that everything that I write about and everything that I fight for are one and the same, and that is human dignity. So I never feel any kind of, you know, schizophrenia or separation from who I am, whether I'm writing or speaking publicly or giving conferences or running for elections and fighting for a more decent and dignified political life in my country. It's all one, it's a one package.
But I mean, the one question that I wonder when I see all the things that you are doing is, how on earth do you find the time? Are you a superwoman, or do you have more hours on the day than the rest of us?
I'm not a superwoman, and that's not I'm also a mother of two amazing feminist men. One is 27 and one is 20. The youngest is here with me, and he's proud to be a feminist. So that was important too for me, because you know what, in my country and in my part of the world, many women are still confined to the stereotyped role of being a mother. And they always ask me, well, you travel, you write, you go on TV, you can make a difference. What can I do as a woman, just as a housewife? And I tell them, the education of our children, whether they are boys or girls, is super important. It's as important as anything else, because that's how we get to build a future where girls feel like they are allowed to have a career and have dreams, and they're not just a mother or a sister or a daughter or whatever, and where boys know that the woman is a partner and not just an accessory. So this is very important. Where do I get my, I don't know how, because I'm passionate. I think you can feel it. I'm a passionate person, so every night when I go to sleep, I'm almost dead. I feel like I'm drained, I cannot even breathe because I'm so tired and exhausted, but every morning I wake up and I want to move mountains, and that's how I've managed to move forward. Let's not forget, in a society that is mostly against everything that I and people like me stand for. So there's a lot of resistance, but you have to just keep pushing the limits and knocking the wall, because that wall can only be destroyed from the inside. We have to do it. We, Arabs or Lebanese or whatever, have to do it ourselves.
So are there mornings when you wake up and you just feel, today I don't have the energy, and in that case, what do you do to regain your energy?
Well, I do, but then I receive an email. I mean, because I'm a human being, I'm not a superwoman, I wish I was. And then I get an email or a message from someone, whether a girl or a boy or a man or a woman or whatever, telling me like, thank you for what you're doing, thank you for saying the things I cannot say, thank you for representing hope. And then I feel like that is my vitamin, that. I mean, this is what gives me the strength to forget my backache, my migraine, my exhaustion, everything. And I just, you know, I feel like, yeah, I have to do it. People are giving me their trust, which is the most important thing someone can give you. So I have to be at the level of that trust.
Absolutely. Can I come back to the question of your sons? You said you have raised two feminist sons. So how have you done that? And what advice do you have to other mothers and fathers who want to work for a more egalitarian society?
I think that in my experience, obviously education of kids is a very subjective and personal experience, and I would never allow myself to tell other people how to raise their kids. But in my case, it was mainly not about preaching, but about just being who I am, just saying the things that I say, writing the words that I write, not letting myself be intimidated by the thought of what if my sons read this and do not like it, because they might not like it, but it would still be my right to do it. So it's about being like living the things instead of saying them, and that is how I do consider I'm lucky, because they're also very decent, very hardworking. It could have turned bad because I'm also, like you said, a provocateur, so they could have been challenged by me, but it was not the case, and that is mainly because I always respected their freedom to decide for themselves. Just show them the way, tell them whatever your opinion is if they ask for it, but then give them the freedom they need and the space they need to make their own decisions and be responsible for that.
No, and I'm thinking how important it is precisely to have that freedom, but also to how we develop as human beings. And we're different when we are older than when we are young. If you think back of your life, is there anything that you would like to, so to say, advice that you would have liked to give your younger self?
First of all, I'm barely 15 years old. That's how I see myself. I cannot imagine myself to be older than that. But no, I wouldn't change anything. Despite all the pain and the suffering that I went through, especially as in my childhood and adolescence, I wouldn't change a thing, because those are the things that made me, in a way, who I am, and who still give me the feeling that I should become a better person every day. And this is an important part of my history. So I wouldn't change anything. Sometimes, because I've just came back from a trip to Mallorca, and my mom was with me, and she asked me when we arrived in a beautiful place by the sea. She told me, Jumana, why on earth didn't we have the chance to be born here in a place like this, instead of being born in a hell called Lebanon? And there are worse hells than Lebanon, just to be fair. And I told her, well, maybe this is what gave us our strength, our determination, our will to advance. And maybe this is a good luck, not a bad luck. And at that moment, I felt like I was like her mother, and I was lying to her to comfort her. But then I thought, well, that wasn't such a lie, because yes, it was hard, but still it did forge us into the people that we are today, and that's important.
One of the things that strikes me when I read your books is how you, in an extremely successful way, manage to dismantle stereotypes, and many of the issues that you are raising are on a deeply human level. But you're also pointing to some of the cultural specificities. There is one chapter in your book, I Killed Shahrazad, where you are talking about what is it to be an Arab woman. So maybe you can share with us a little bit of your thoughts on the question of identity, on stereotypes. How do we overcome them?
Well, first I have to say that I myself had a journey on that level, and that many of my thoughts at the beginning of the journey have become different now. And I like that. I like this evolution, because it means that I'm learning and I'm, becoming more aware. But yes, I mean, like many times, because I travel a lot, Many times when there's this title for an event called an Arab writer, whatever, people expect a woman with a hijab or a burqa or the 7 veils or belly dances or whatever. And I know it's funny, but at the same time, it's unnerving, you know, because there are lots of women who are like me and better than me in my part of the world. And even though the stereotype of the oppressed woman is not wrong, because there are oppressed women, but there are also other women. Women who are courageous, who are fighters, warriors, who are doing their best to make their societies and their families and their lives better. And they deserve some part of the attention so that we can equilibrate this image that is spread about us out there. Because, and this image is also abused in some parts of the West in order to justify homophobia, in order to justify the rise of the extreme right, in order to justify many horrors which to me are as terrible and condemnable as extremism in Islam. So for me, I think that all extremisms nourish each other. It's not like they are against each other like you would think. No, I think the right, extreme right, benefits from the extreme Islamists because they are the reason why they exist and why they say we are right and they are wrong and vice versa. And we should not fall in that trap. That's a trap. And we should look to the human being. We should look beyond all these labels that they put on us, because at the end of the day, I might be a Lebanese woman or an Arab woman, and you a Swedish woman, and her, a French woman, but at the end of the day, we might have way more things in common than you with another Swedish woman. So it's about the human being that we are, much more than about where we were born and whatever we inherited without choosing.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. But what is it then that we could do or should do, in your opinion? And that will be my last question. What is it that we can do to overcome these misunderstandings and get away with the stereotypes?
Be curious, the good kind of curious. Read about those countries. Read beyond the sensationalist media and the messages that they want to convey. Also, embrace what is different, because what is different is not always bad. It enriches people. It enriches us. Thirdly, and most importantly, I think, events like this, where people meet and listen to each other, are very, very essential to the advancement of the world in general.
So my book recommendation to all of you is I Killed Sherazadeh, Confessions of an Angry Arab Woman. What is your book recommendation to the audience?
Well, now I'm reading a book in Spanish, so I'm going to recommend it because I'm loving it. It's called Amado Monstruo, Beloved Monster, I think it's been translated to many languages by a Spanish writer called Javier Tomeo. And it's amazing because it discusses in particular the complexes that sometimes mothers put in their sons because they are so attached to them. So that's a good book.
Thank you so much, Jumana Haddad.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.